Hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be here. I've got a question that I'd like to ask you, and that question is, what are you doing tomorrow morning? Sleeping. What should we do? What do you normally do? Go out for breakfast, maybe. See some friends. Go to the park. Maybe recover from the after party, I don't know. Well, I usually, on a Sunday, around about 12:30, I like to go to India. And, you know, there's a group of children who live in India, and about the same time, they like to come and visit me in Spain. And we meet via Skype in the School in the Cloud project that you've just heard Professor Mitra talk about. So I'm going to tell you about how going to a conference and getting some ideas there can make a big impact and perhaps transform your professional and personal life. It did for me. But we need to go back a few years when it all started. So Sugata Mitra was speaking at an English teachers conference in the UK, and I was sat in the audience. And before I'd listened to Sugata Mitra talk, I'd never heard of him before, and I didn't know that he'd won the TED Talk Prize in 2013. But what I heard really changed my life. The way he described about putting computers into slum walls, as we saw earlier, challenging children with baffling questions, and then seeing how the mediator, the granny, helped them. I thought this was inspiring. So you'll remember that the granny spurs the children on by encouragement, smiling, endlessly being interested, while the children investigate big questions. And these are big questions without an obvious answer. So, you know, they're really stimulated to work on them. And while they're investigating these big questions, they're teaching themselves English, almost without realizing it. So I felt a connection with what he was saying because I'd been at the same conference talking about some research into praise and positive feedback with children. So it really struck a chord with me. And at the conference, after Sugata's talk, everybody was buzzing, talking about it, but not everybody reacted positively to it. Quite a lot of English teaching professionals got a bit upset because he's challenging traditional ideas of what teachers should be doing in classrooms, even suggesting that teachers might not be necessary. I mean, I'm a teacher. I didn't get upset. I felt very differently. After the conference, I went away and I read all of his research papers that he'd written and published. I got on the School in the Cloud website and read absolutely every page on the website. And I decided I wanted to apply to be a granny. And after quite a careful and well-designed application process. Is that better? Okay. I thought I was quite loud. Okay, so after this quite lengthy and well-designed... Thank you. After this quite lengthy and well-designed application process, I was a beginner granny. So here we've got a map of India, obviously. And here are all the 5 labs that have been built for the School in the Cloud project. And you can see there's a bit of a cluster in West Bengal, which is where I do most of my grannying. And I've got another photo here of me in a granny session. So here we are, we're at the Gocharan lab in West Bengal. And in this session, we're talking about what makes plants and flowers grow. And kids are telling me about the importance of cow dung. Yeah. So that's what a granny session looks like. I mean, there are quite a lot of challenges. The internet connection can be temperamental. Electricity, all the labs are powered by solar panels. So if there's no sunshine, there's no electricity. And, some of these labs are in monsoon areas. I never know which children are going to come along to the sessions, so age groups, boys or girls, if they're completely new, if they come every time, what their level of English is. So, it can be a bit chaotic. And I never really know how the children are going to respond to my ideas for the sessions. So it's all a bit risky. But over time, I've discovered the beauty of the project, and it's all about handing over as much as possible to the children. And so in a session, we might start from one point, but then we just follow the interest of the child. And this child-led methodology is a very important part of the project. The resilience of the children is really quite amazing. All I do on a Sunday morning is open my laptop and switch it on. These children come along in their spare time. They come along after school. One of the children in Coracati, he cycles over an hour and a quarter to get to the lab to work on the computers and talk to me. I mentioned that I was a teacher earlier, and I thought I'd try the School in the Cloud method out with some of the children that I teach at school, so they're age 10. So the question we were investigating, and this was it connected nicely in with the syllabus connected to animals, we're investigating why do cats have whiskers. So I put kids into groups of 3, and they were all sharing a computer, and then let them go and investigate, trying to follow Sagotamitra's model. And then I kind of took a step back and tried to be a granny in the classroom. And so all I did was, I tried to make sure that they kept their searches in English. It's a bit of a challenge. There's quite a lot of information out there in Spanish. But they come to my school to learn English, so we had to keep it in English. So I went around encouraging, smiling, yeah, you're on track, excellent, and keeping things in English. So the results that they got were good. They're really good. But the extra impact was very interesting because I noticed quite a number of things. The different groups started investigating different aspects of the cat's whiskers. So some of them were interested into investigating what are the whiskers made of and how do they work. Another group started to look at what happens when whiskers break on cats. And then another group started looking at silly cat videos, as you do, and had to guide them back. But something that I noticed while they were working was that the children were accessing websites and pages with a reading level far above their age. Very much like in the Hole in the Wall project, which you saw the footage of. And they were making their own minds up as to whether or not it was relevant. Something else I also realised is that they need quite a lot of help using the internet properly. So this idea that children are digital natives, and that they're very at home with using tablets, smartphones, laptops. In the classroom, I actually noticed that they needed help putting together good search criteria, thinking about the search engines that they use, and then making wise choices about the reliability of websites that they found. But overall, I found that the School in the Cloud method worked really well to use learning technologies really productively and to get kids working together. So they were sharing a laptop, they were helping each other, learning together. So one laptop per student isn't always the best situation. Another part of my job in Madrid is that I work in teacher training, and I work with primary and secondary school teachers. In Spain, there's been quite a big movement towards bilingual education in the last few years. And I felt that the big questions could be a very useful way for teachers to tackle subject curriculum in their classroom. So with a group of primary and secondary school teachers, I challenged them to think about some big questions that they could use in their classrooms. And these are some of their questions they came up with. You might have a few ideas about the top left one. It's been pretty hot over the last few days. Okay, so my ideas, my impression was that the subject teachers really got it. So they felt that it would be helpful to deliver their subject curriculum, but it also got the students using their minds. They were developing their critical thinking skills too. So I suppose one of my lessons for you from my session is that if you do have an idea, try it out. So it might work, it might not work, it might take you somewhere where you never imagined at all. I never thought that going to see Professor Mitra that day would have such an impact on my personal and professional life. It's an incredible thing having such a connection with people who live very different lives to me. And I think you might sense that my weekly visits to India have become a very important part of my life. I mean, the children are teaching me a lot as well. And we have a lot of fun. And in February, I went to visit the children in all of the, 4 of the labs in India. And here's a photo. So we're in Gochran Lab again in West Bengal. And we had a great afternoon together. And 2 weeks ago, I was talking to some of the kids in the Korakati lab. These are the kids that I normally meet on a Sunday. And I asked them why the lab is important for them. So you get ready for a real granny experience. This is the actual sound quality that you get on a Skype call to India. But let's hear what the kids are saying for themselves about the project.
I am Mridul Mondal. I am 14 years old. I read in class 7. I came to lab to learn computer and English. I search internet here, search many questions.
Hello ma'am, my name is Tiu Sharodar. I am 14 years old. I read in class 9. I came to lab computer and English. I search internet here. Search many questions. I love to talk with Granny ma'am and in internet searching origami, make origami. This is dog and plane.
Very nice.
This is hard. This is math.
Oh, wow, it's beautiful.
I also paint here.
Wow. Thank you, Pew.
Thank you, ma'am. I love to come here.
That's really great.
Thank you, ma'am.
I love your origami.
Thank you.
I love to talk with Granny ma'am. I love to online grammar.
Hello to everyone at TEDx.
And the kids were very excited that the idea that they were going to be speaking to you. So I'm very proud of them. So could you give them a round of applause, all the children and all the people behind the School in the Cloud. Thank you.
Okay, so first thing, what this means, sincere and very warm greetings and congratulations. So, mass Bengali message to West Bengal in India from TEDxKazimierz. 1, 2, 3. Antarek Subekta Ibong Abhinandon. That's pretty cool. Okay, could you give yourselves and Lesley a round of applause, please?